Welcome friends to another r/AmITheJerk video. I hope I don't sound like a jerk asking, but could you hit the like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our first story of the day is by NoTips22. Am I the jerk for not warning my friend that a regular customer is married and she would get a low tip if she flirted with him? I work at a high-end restaurant and I recently helped my friend get a job here too. There's a regular customer, I'll call him Dorian, that knows the owner. So the management fawn all over him whenever he's here, and since he's an extremely generous tipper, everybody wants him seated in their section. Usually he comes here for client meetings, but he brings his wife sometimes too. Dorian is very good looking, so a lot of the waitresses flirt with him. It's a known fact among the staff that have worked here for a few months that if you flirt with him, you're going to get a lower tip. Especially if you flirt with him in front of his wife. Yesterday, Dorian and a few other people came to our restaurant, including his wife. He ended up in my friend's section, and a few of the other waitresses told her how jealous they were because she was going to get a huge tip from him. I noticed my friend was flirting with him, but we were very busy and I didn't get a chance to warn her, and nobody else did either. She ended up getting a meager tip compared to what she would have done if she hadn't flirted with him, and she was complaining after closing time. I told her it was because she was flirting with him in front of his wife, and he doesn't like that. And she got angry at me for not warning her sooner. I told her I hadn't gotten a chance to since we were so busy. But she brought up an old conversation we had the first time she saw him, and she said he was hot, and I had agreed. She feels I should have told her right there and then that he was married, but he wasn't in either of our sections that time, so I never thought to bring it up. Am I the jerk? As always with these stories, the purpose is to judge whether or not OP was the jerk. The categories being OP's the jerk, OP's not the jerk, everybody in the story's a jerk, there's no jerks at all, and not enough info. In this situation, I think OP's not the jerk. I just think in no way is OP obligated to just upfront tell you what to do with this customer, or even obligated to tell you whether or not a customer's married if you even know. I guess in a lot of situations, flirting with customers can be a great way to get tips sometimes, but it just seems common sense enough that it probably isn't a given for every customer. And if somebody brings a female with them, if you have no idea who they are, why would you go around flirting with the dude? Just seems kind of weird. What do you guys think? Was OP the jerk in this situation? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Our next story is by RemusR3. Am I the jerk for ruining my boyfriend's sister's baby shower? I, 16-year-old female, went to my boyfriend, male 17, sister's 29-year-old female, baby shower. He invited me because I get along with a lot of his immediate family and thought it'd be a good way to introduce me to some of his extended family, cousins, aunts, and uncles. I had a bad feeling that I'd get the question anytime they're out with their boyfriend to a family event, and I got it. One of his aunts, who I don't know too much, came over while I was playing with the younger kids and took me over to where some of the other aunts and my boyfriend's sister was for some girl talk. What she meant was an interrogation about my future life choices. What university did I plan on going to? What did I want my career to be? My opinions on marriage? This was more the aunts than the sister. She was pretty silent during it. I answered each one calmly. They seemed to not like the fact that I didn't want to ever be married, even though that's also my boyfriend's opinion. Then the question came. Do you want kids? I said never because I don't want kids. For multiple reasons, but I got interrogated about why I don't want kids. Would I ever adopt? Doesn't my boyfriend want kids? Then the aunt who pulled me away asked what would happen if I got pregnant by accident. I told them that's very unlikely, but if it were, I'd most likely abort. They looked like I said I'd kill it with my bare hands, telling me it'd be different if I was actually pregnant, and that when I feel a life growing inside me, it would be different. I told them I'm sure that's what they felt, but at this moment, I don't want a kid and never want a kid, so that's what I would do. When I went back outside, I told my boyfriend what happened and went to play hide and seek with the little kids. And everything was fine, but when we came back in to eat, my boyfriend's aunt asked, "I thought you didn't want kids." I reinforced that I didn't, and she brought up that I was really good with the kids at the party. I explained wanting kids and being good with kids are two different things. She then told my boyfriend that I need to leave and I ruined the party because of my opinions. And what I said, while she was making conversation, my boyfriend said we'd both leave since his aunt was out of line. A couple days later, his dad told us that his aunt never wants to see me again and disapproves of me being with my boyfriend. So, am I the jerk for stating my views on a topic I was asked about? I think OP's definitely not the jerk. These ladies who don't know OP at all dragged them over and asked them some quite personal questions, stuff that, depending on which way you lean, can be heavily politicized too, just all around potentially very uncomfortable topics. And once it's revealed that OP thinks of things clearly in a different opinion than the ant flips out, says OP needs to leave, kicks them out of the party for their opinions. OP's not the jerk for saying they don't want kids. Not to mention OP is 16 and they're asking them all these questions? Let them kind of grow up. Most people nowadays are waiting until they're double OP's ages to even consider having kids. This next story is by Water367. Am I the jerk for not eating a single bite of the expensive meal I ordered that my ex was paying for? I contacted my ex to ask him for help regarding our child. He said he would only discuss things with me if I went to dinner with him. I didn't want to go, but since I need his help and he wouldn't agree to anything else, I said yes. Leading up to the dinner, I was a nervous, nauseous wreck. Speaking/seeing my ex again was the last thing I wanted to do, and I avoided it until I had no other options left. The nauseous feeling got 100 times worse when I got to the restaurant and saw him. I knew if I ate anything, I would be sick. So when it came time to order, I only asked for a water, which led to a small argument with my ex because he kept insisting I eat something. I tried to explain that I wasn't hungry and that I was feeling sick, but he refused to talk about anything else until I ordered something since he wouldn't eat alone. I ended up ordering something random, but I never ate a single bite. I just moved the food around with my fork while I said what I needed to say. After we left, my ex chewed me out for wasting the food and for embarrassing him by playing with food like a child. Am I the jerk? I definitely don't think OP's the jerk in this situation. They were under a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. And even though this person might not realize it, and they might feel upset or slighted about it if they just don't understand or refuse to understand, but that doesn't change the fact that OP was feeling a certain way, a way that's very legitimate to feel, that caused a lot of stress and nausea, and obviously you're just not gonna want to eat with that. Definitely not the jerk in my eyes. Our next story is by the chicken guy. Am I the jerk? My children's mother wants me to build a chicken coop. I gave her a ridiculously high price for it. I, 35-year-old male, divorced my ex-wife about a year ago. We have 2 daughters together, and they split time between our houses. Because of this, we still have to talk to each other on a regular basis. When we were married, we got some chickens. She wanted them, but it was a friend of mine that actually gave them to us. The original chickens have since passed, but she still has several. When we got the chickens, I built them a coop and a run. This was several years ago, and she's telling me it needs to be rebuilt. I suggested she get one from the store. She said no, none were big enough and she didn't like any. She wanted me to build one. I said, heck no, I'm not doing that. She said I should because the chickens were from my friend, and if I had built it better in the first place, we wouldn't need a new one. She kept bothering me and asking for it, so I eventually gave her a price. The estimated cost of the wood, plus $30 per hour it would take, and an extra $50 for being rude. This was high because building a run and coop takes a lot of time and lumber. It was way more than one at the store would cost. She said I was being ridiculous when I sent her the number. She says we're supposed to be a team working on it, and I shouldn't force the chickens to live in an unsafe coop. I told her she could build one herself. She said she can't afford it. Now she's saying I'm neglecting the chickens and is saying she wants to redo the custody agreement. Now I'm wondering if I should just give her the coop? Am I the jerk? She's threatening to try to redo the custody agreement because of a chicken coop? Not just because of a chicken coop, because you won't build her a new chicken coop for a good price? OP is definitely not the jerk, and I hope that OP has that in writing or email, text message, whatever. I don't know how it works, but it feels like that would just be a good thing to have in your back pocket if something did happen. The one thing I'm worried about here is if OP goes ahead and gives her the coop, is it gonna stop with the coop? Or is there going to be another thing that comes along that, I want you to give me this or else I'm going to rework the custody agreement? Either way, I don't think OP's a jerk, and they shouldn't feel liable to build this coop for any reason. Our next story is by AITA ex-nieces. Am I the jerk for not taking my kids on my ex's days? My ex and I have 2 kids, 15-year-old male and 13-year-old female. I have them every other Monday to Thursday. Around a month or two ago, he called me and said that his sister was in the ICU after being hit by a car and asked me to take the kids for a couple of days so he could see her. I was reluctant because earlier this year, he gave me a hard time because I booked a vacation for me and my boyfriend, now fiancé, during my custody time. But I agreed because she could have died. We live around 5 hours away from them, so I assumed he'd drive here, stay the night, then come back the next morning, but he was gone for almost a week. Then last Friday, the day after my kids went back to my ex, apparently his oldest niece, same sister's kid, maybe 16 or 17, called him and asked for help. According to my ex, the girl's stepdad made her be her mom's full-time caretaker, take care of her half-siblings, 3 girls under 5, and do everything around the house. He asked me to take them again so he could pick up his nieces and arrange for his sister to be in some kind of care home or have a full-time carer. I asked how long this would take, and he said he didn't know and estimated it would be around a week. I said no because he refuses to take the kids during my custody time, and he screamed at me, saying this was a family emergency, called me a petty witch, and said I'm a horrible mom. I still refused to take them, so he called my parents, explained the situation, and left the kids with them. Now, on top of my ex giving me crap, my parents are saying I should have taken my kids because this was an emergency. Am I the jerk for not taking my kids during my ex's custody time? Okay, so this is a little tricky because I feel like OP's feelings are not necessarily invalid in regards to being a little frustrated that they won't take the kids during the time you try to take off. That said, I do think OP's a pretty big jerk for not just biting their tongue and taking the kids and watching them for this time, because that's a pretty darn serious situation. He's trying to make accommodations for the nieces, for their sister. Just try and focus on how many things they're trying to go through and juggle right now, and just watch your own kids for a couple of weeks. If anything, I feel like you should be overjoyed that you get to spend all that time with your kids. It's your own 2 children, and them being with you for an extended amount of time is the worst thing. I'm not really sure where the priorities are laying here. And our final story of the day is by Throw RA Cleaning Prob. Am I the jerk for calling my wife crazy after she screamed at our son? Me, 34-year-old male, and my wife Jen, 32-year-old female, have a wonderful son named Robbie, 7-year-old male. One thing you need to know about Jen is that she's a perfectionist. She's constantly cleaning, sterilizing, and organizing things around the house. This has been an issue in our relationship because I constantly feel like I'm walking on eggshells around her. Her OCD tendencies have gone into overdrive ever since Robbie was born. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy that she's diligent when it comes to keeping our home clean and healthy. However, I feel like it's become unhealthy, specifically regarding Robbie. Robbie's cried on several occasions because he's the only one in his friend group that can't have company over. He's rarely allowed to visit friends, and when he does, he has to immediately shower from head to toe thoroughly. I've addressed these issues with Jen, but she refuses to see me and Robbie's points of view. The incident: yesterday, Robbie, Jen, and myself were all at home. Jen had just finished cleaning the carpet in the living room and then went to clean the bathroom. Robbie wanted a glass of milk, so he poured himself a glass and went into the living room to watch TV. At some point, Robbie accidentally knocked over his glass, which spilled some milk onto the carpet. I was in my bedroom. The next thing I know, I hear Jen screaming at the top of her lungs. I rush into the living room and see Jen screaming at Robbie while he cries in the corner. He looked terrified. He just kept frantically apologizing and shaking. Jen screamed, "I just freaking cleaned this carpet. Why didn't you drink the milk in the kitchen?" I stepped in and told Jen to calm down. "It's just a little milk, no big deal." She continued to yell non-stop and started aggressively cleaning the milk while cussing at Robbie under her breath. I told Robbie to go into his room so Jen and I could talk alone. After he left, I told Jen that she shouldn't have screamed at Robbie like that. She defended herself by saying that he knew the rules and should have known better. I told her that he's a little boy who made a mistake that anyone could have made. After things continued to escalate, I realized that there was no getting through to her. I yelled, "Robbie and I are sick and tired of your BS. Robbie can't even be a kid because he's constantly terrified of you. I'm not gonna sit back and let you do this to me and Robbie anymore. You're freaking crazy." She was dead silent and just went back to mindlessly cleaning the carpet. I spoke with Robbie and eventually calmed him down by taking him out for ice cream. After we got back from ice cream, I saw that Jen had locked herself in the spare bedroom. She refuses to acknowledge me and hasn't spoke to me since yesterday. For the first time in years, I saw her go a whole night and morning without cleaning. I'm starting to feel like I went too far, but I was just trying to defend my son. Am I the jerk? So I genuinely feel pretty darn bad for both OP and Robbie. Robbie was obviously terrified in the situation and doesn't deserve to be yelled at like that. They're just a kid. I feel bad for OP because clearly they said some harsh things, but I think they were kind of deserved. But you can tell that OP clearly cares, and you can see it clearly affected their wife. That distant, silent sulking that's going on, it really does make you feel bad. If I was in OP's shoes, after a while I'd start feeling like a jerk too for saying those things. Even though, in reality, it was totally justified because they're just being way too much of a control freak. Honestly, I feel like the main thing that needs to be considered is some kind of counseling or therapy being introduced. But we're focusing on the jerk aspect, and I clearly think OP's not the jerk. That said though, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel, and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.